Hi guys, it's Debbie. Last night I watched the new Joker film, Joker 2, Folie à Deux, and I actually enjoyed it. Yes, I know, I wasn't expecting that either. Everything I had heard described it as one of the worst sequels ever made, an absolute disaster. A film so bad it wasn't even funny how terrible it was. Something so boring and atrocious it wasn't worth the money. I was expecting a Suicide Squad Jared Leto level of Joker. But as a fan of the Batman Joker DC universe, I decided to give it a go. And either we were watching two entirely different films, but it wasn't anywhere close to how bad it was described. It's nowhere close to the first film, but overall I enjoyed it. This serves as a reminder, it's great to get an overall idea from reviews. Here I am reviewing a film, but always remember to form your own opinion. Thank goodness we all have different opinions on films and taste in general, otherwise how boring the world would be if we all just liked the same things and had the same opinion about everything. Just recently, I watched the new Crow film, absolutely hated it, but I read that there are people who actually enjoyed it. Or on the contrary, as many of you know, I didn't like Poor Things, while it's considered by many one of the best films of 2023. Obviously, when you have such a hugely popular and beloved film, the expectations for a sequel are extremely high. It's very difficult to meet everyone's expectations. Regardless of how this film was made, it would have been impossible to please everybody. Also, I really wish people would actually give a reason for liking or disliking this film. I actually enjoy discussing with people who have a completely different opinion from mine. But in this case, to me, it seems like it's all boiled down to
Joker 2 was actually way better than expected.
Stop lying, it was shit.
I mean, I know you have to come up with all these quirky one-liners for the letterbox likes, but can we actually get more than 2 words on why you actually liked or didn't like this film? This feels a little like when it was only popular to say that you liked everything everywhere all at once and you couldn't say anything different, otherwise you would be banished into forgetting dumb. Anyway, I will dive into spoilers towards the end of this video, but for now, without giving anything away, the premise is that because of his criminal actions in the first movie, Joker is now locked up in Arkham Asylum, where he meets Lady Gaga's character Harley Quinn. The first Joker film was known for its dark, realistic and gritty depiction of a crime-ridden Gotham City, in which Arthur Fleck is bullied until basically snapping and becoming the infamous Joker. This version of the story could easily been set completely outside of a superhero universe, a little like DC is doing with other projects now, for example the new Penguin series, which until now has been more of a crime drama just featuring characters drawn from a superhero world. People love the eerie soundtrack, the chaotic, bloody visuals, the gut-wrenching dialogues, and the grimy depiction of Gotham. And it's worth noting that all of this was clearly advertised. The promotional content back in 2018, 2019 was all about the revenge, the blood, the bullying, the killing. The second film, however, is entirely different. It focuses more on Joker's romantic relationship with Harley Quinn and his legal battles, with much of the story told through musical pieces. And this too was clearly advertised. People knew this was going to be more of a musical, focusing on the romantic relationship between Harley and Joker. Just look at the promotional material. There was no longer Joker being beaten up or taking out revenge or bullying or blood. It's the couple dancing on rooftops, kissing, a lot of kissing. The trailers referenced singing in the rain, and the film's social media accounts focused on images of Lady Gaga's stunning dresses at red carpet events. Lady Gaga herself heavily promoted the musical aspect, releasing clips, songs, albums. So yes, it is different from the first chapter, but audiences were clearly warned. I don't understand people who actually bought tickets to go watch a musical and then complained when they started singing. I know many companies are reluctant at promoting their films as musicals, as it is perhaps the most unpopular genre at the moment. While some recent musicals like La La Land and A Star Is Born achieved mainstream success, the genre is still heavily associated with the theatre kid vibe rather than the bad kid vibe the Joker films attract. You know, at football matches there's always somebody in the crowd waving a Heath Ledger Joker flag, or those people who stick a "Why So Serious" sticker onto their motorbike. That is the kind of vibe and audience that the Joker films attract. Two completely different audiences. However, from what I've experienced, The new Joker movie didn't really try to hide the fact that it was a musical. I mean, the new Mean Girls film is a full-blown musical, but the trailer doesn't even hint at that all. In contrast, the Joker 2 trailer showed the characters dancing, singing, kissing. Lady Gaga released several songs, and most promotional images feature the couple dancing, holding hands, dancing on moonlit terraces. One of the first images released was a direct reference to Singing in the Rain. I really don't think the filmmakers were trying to trick us into watching a musical to then do the haha gotcha moment. Personally, I would have preferred it not to be a musical, but in hindsight, the concept of Joker singing and dancing and being a performer, mostly in his head, was quite evident already in the first film. The whole staircase segment is literally Joker dancing. I would have been more surprised if Robert Pattinson's Batman suddenly got a musical sequel. Regarding the casting of Lady Gaga, I mean, come on, she was an obvious choice. She's a great singer and has already acted in many high-profile movies, and except for some tragic black holes like House of Gucci, she is a solid actress. She's been performing for years now. Even when she was just a singer, they were putting up massive concert performances. Her music videos often featured nearly short film material. She was always putting on a character at events and interviews. So yes, there probably were many other actresses who would have done a great job, but Lady Gaga in a musical isn't exactly such a wild card. Also, despite the musical aspect, I don't believe the dark, gritty tone of Joker was entirely forgotten. Many people are overly focused on the musical aspect, but this film actually features some very brutal moments. Not as much as the first film, of course, but in the first film, Joker was just free to roam around the city, be beat up other people, kill. The premise of this new film is that he is locked up in Arkham Asylum. There's only so much he can do. Another criticism I see a lot of people moving forward is that this film wasn't necessary in the first place, and that then it is dull, boring, and doesn't bring anything new to the table. I agree on the part that it wasn't necessary. I've been saying this since the first Joker came out. The original was a glimpse into a dark world, a standalone story that didn't necessarily need sequels or spin-offs. I think Todd Phillips just received a very generous offer and changed his mind. Just like the Wachowskis weren't supposed to do any other Matrix movies, and then we all know how that went down. So yes, we could have gone on fine without seeing this part of Joker's life, but I disagree that nothing happens in the film. Of course, I can't go into details for spoilers, stick around to the end of the video for those, but there was a major event that had the whole theatre room buzzing and speculating. The ending was significant, whether you like it or not. Harley Quinn's character is introduced, which is a major addition. I agree, Harvey Dent's character was greatly underwritten, whether it was him or another lawyer with another name, it would have been the same. And for those who say that in this film, things are set up and then sort of trail off into nothing, did we all just forget about the whole Wayne mansion encounter set up in the first film? Or if we want to compare this new Joker film to more critically acclaimed movies, think about the whole huge Robin tease set up in The Dark Knight Rises, and here we still are. Of course, if you were expecting more crime-ridden, gritty scenes like in the first Joker film, this will feel very different. It's more of a slow burn, courtroom drama packed with musical pieces. It's something entirely different, but not necessarily terrible. Especially considering that technically and stylistically, the crew is basically identical. Same director, same cast with a few new additions, same composer, cinematographer, editor. It wasn't some cheap follow-up by a new crew just trying to replicate the vibe of the first film. Now, let's get into spoilers, and I'm going to put up a massive disclaimer, as some of you in the past complained that I didn't warn you enough about spoilers, so this is your last chance to leave the video if you don't want the story spoiled. Okay, so the three main topics we have to cover are Harley Quinn claiming she is pregnant with Joker's child, the courtroom bombing, and Joker being killed at the end of the film, and potentially introducing a new Joker. Starting with Harley's pregnancy, I haven't read the comics, so I don't know if this is canonically possible. What I do know is that Joker is an incredibly unreliable narrator, and Harley Quinn is basically on the same level. Almost everything she tells us about her in the film turns out to be a lie. This could be something she made up. It could be a lie, or it could be true, but something she changes her mind on later on in the film as she then dumps Joker. If this is true, this is massive, because obviously it is a potential big setup for future spin-offs, etc. It could remain just a big mystery, but you know, I really think that Warner Bros. Will just try to get their hands on any possible material for potential spin-offs, sequels, a new series. Then the courtroom bombing was the most unexpected scene for me. Actually, the whole theatre room was in shock when that happened. It's never revealed who did it. It could be Harley Quinn, although at that point she was already angry with Joker and was dumping him. Could it be another villain in the Batman universe? Maybe one of his fans did it. After all, we do see them always crowded outside the courtroom and supporting him. There's also the possibility that it just never happened. Joker often envisions long sequences in his head or sees events differently from how they happen in real life. In this case, there is a bombing, he escapes, but then is promptly taken back to Arkham Asylum, where we just find him again sitting on his chair watching the TV as if nothing had happened. Again, this is something that could be kept as a big mystery, but I highly doubt that Warner Bros. Will let this opportunity just run away into nothing. Finally, the biggest topic to cover is the ending, which in my head, that was Jack Nicholson's son, because just a few hours prior, I had seen the new poster for Smile 2, which featured a photo of Jack Nicholson's son creepily smiling, and my brain went all down this rabbit hole by which they had taken an older Joker's son to be the new Joker. No, I was wrong. That was all in my head. Arthur Fleck is murdered by another inmate at Arkham Asylum, who then starts to laugh with a laughter very similar to Heath Ledger's Joker. Of course, this was all at the cinema, so I'd have to rewatch this at home and, you know, pause and go back on certain elements. Then we see him doing something with his face in the background, which is presumably he is carving his face with a knife in a manner similar to how Heath Ledger's Joker has the scars on the sides of his mouth. And again, of course, all a possible world of sequels is set up here. What I found interesting was a comment I found online which said that in 2019, director Todd Phillips had hinted at Arthur not being the real Joker, but more of an inspiration for the real Joker, which kind of makes sense if you consider his age difference with Batman, meaning that a younger person will grow up and become the Joker in the Batman universe. His relationship with Harley Quinn was very short-lived. In her mind, he is not the real Joker, so maybe she will move on to somebody who is. Of course, as I was mentioning earlier, with such a big, huge, popular start to this world, it was very hard to please anybody. It was very hard to find an ending that would satisfy everybody. The only other different, interesting way that I could think of was Joker actually managed to escape from the courtroom bombing and keeping on his ventures as Joker. But of course, they had to come to an ending sooner or later, and obviously this opens a whole world of possible spin-offs and sequels and series, not necessarily following Todd Phillips's original vision. But at this point, I want to know what you think about all of this. Have you already watched Joker 2? Are you planning on watching it? What do you think about everything we talked about today? Let me know, of course, with a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.